Thank you so much. Can we start now? Okay. All right, good afternoon everyone. I hope you are not too sleepy by now because you just have a coffee break, putting some caffeine into your blood to keep you awake. And first of all, welcome to this side event. We will be discussing child and forced marriage in the context of human trafficking. We will be specifically discuss the challenges, the gap, and also the responses, including the good practices. But as we are all aware, that this issue is very complex and multifaceted. Of course, we are not only expecting these beautiful ladies, sitting in front, will be able to probably answer every question and tackling everything from their side. And we believe some of you who are probably in this room has also been quite familiar with the issues or maybe even been working on it, right? So therefore, I would encourage you to really use the apps, the WA apps, where you can actually not only post your question, but you might also want to post any kind of input, insight, or even if you have any materials, tools, guidelines, and so on, please feel free to, putting there or placing it there so that we all can learn from each other, and then we can think of more like how moving forward to tackle these issues. Again, to just a background a little bit, as we are all familiar that the issues of child forced marriage, forced marriage is still persists or continue persists, despite of the effort, national, regional, or international effort to combat this, conditions, but still continue to happen. And as indicated by the recent report issued in 2023 by UNICEF, there are quite, kind of like alarming statistic where they have indicated around 12 million girls all over the world every year. They were actually engaged in a marriage or marrying someone within their childhood age, means below 18 years old. And this data then also further backed up by UNODC, who has confirmed that many of these women and girls, including as early as 12 years old, being deceived, being coerced, being manipulated to marry someone, and end up experiencing sex exploitations, forced labor, domestic servitude, and so on, right? And what is very sad on this context is very often their trafficking situation is engaging their own family members, their parents, their brothers, who are expecting some financial gain, either from gift or from the dowry and so on. So this is what happened. But as we have discussed this morning, to be noted here, that the issues of child marriage, forced marriage is not only happening against women and girls only, but it also, in the fact of matter, the existence of data, this also happened to boys and young men, right? So therefore, in this session, we will discuss the prevalence, the scope of the issues, and the nexus of child marriage to trafficking, forced marriage to trafficking, whether all child marriage is trafficking, and so on and so on. And then we will also discuss and sharing together about the response that is already exists so far and the good practices from all the speakers. So from this breakout session, I have 4 speakers. The first one is Ms. Nini Aung, the consultant of the Freedom Fund. She's been working on the issues of human trafficking for over 2 decades. And the second speaker, we have Thazin, a life experience expert from Myanmar, who was trafficked for forced marriage domestically. And she is already very empowered. She's been engaged in the last 2 years, as one of the leaders in the local survivor network in Myanmar. It's called Lin La Ji Network. So that's her organization. And the most important one also, we have a regional and more kind of a bigger perspective, not only from ASEAN region. Nurul Haque, she is the Asia and Pacific Regional Head of Program and Influencing Plan International. She also has been working on this issue for over a decade, so she is also quite experienced. And last but not least, we have Miss Sreyna. She is the country director of Hagar International Foundation from Cambodia. Unfortunately, because of some certain issues, she couldn't come to Thailand, and she somehow recorded her presentation through video to contribute to the discussion. So without further ado, I would like to, first of all, invite Ms. Thazin, a life experience expert, to speak and kick out the discussion. The floor is yours, Thazin.
Joy. Joy la jado lujimimia alo mingla washin. Chimane megaro Thazin Takaro na session in Shibabi, Yamapi Mani Taimare, waiting layout net, Jamagaro Tatea the Miva, Jama Tatanti, Pinyate Ukebi, Natausa Go Kunitonga, Jamapua Dwijongare, Janan Kakelare, Pipia, Lujiminogo, and Enge, Wimyachimare. Tipia Pizzi, dig up Chanacha Shibare, but Amata Chagaro, Jamamita Zudra, Waya Divo Dread, Awin Yativo Pilare, Chaye, Tudia Chaga, Lemesaya, Kamu Piacayare, a Chaye Pibare.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Thazin. I'm here to I am the third daughter of my family, and I'm here to share about my story, which has happened in 2019. There's two facts that is forcing me to that kind of situation, which are one, that I have to be the backbone for my family, and the second one is like I've been sexual abuse and forced like kind of labor exploitation by my boss.
Sama, Jamago Jamatea Kanyara Tibime. Okay, Manambioloshi, Bawiji, Piting Gayama, Chowder Jamlo, Mitu Diaguma, Mabioge, and Ashani, Awaro, Tichapo, Nidoma Vesovio, Jamamitazu go, take the same Satravio, Jamamatea Kanya Jango, Piobia Light. Mitazugale, Yaqua Ocho Muyone Gunine, Yesgama, moving Tajabi Here. Aloya Buban Kunimune, Jamati Chiniani, Piale Lumia Lake, Diniama, Jamapia Lachinaga, Lumu Taiwaima Shide, Yaya Luduga, Myotamiri, Matiaka and Yavi, Le Maisaya, Miatoka and Yai, Loakari, Kamu Piaka and Yai, a Kakwe Pitare, Ubre Shide Surago Tibi, a Chinchin Kakwe, the destination Suraha, a Yango, Yeji Surago, Jamapio Piachamare.
Here I wanted to share that when I was in that situation, I feel like that I know that I've been like treated unfair, but I kept keeping that with myself. But later I feel I should speak it out, so I contact my family and then share about my story. So my parents, they go to administrative officer and then go to the police station and report about my case. Here I want to say that in our society or in our community, if we have if a woman or the female, whoever is facing with this kind of situation, we should have collaborated, come together, and supporting each other.
Jamapiago, a moving ye would direct car, pissing on Atambi, Lugongo move shete, Tajan Lugo diary near Bubambi, Jamamugo, Kiadioma, a Musisi Gevare, pissing up, Potiabi, Loma and Quimbo Gide, Diayoma, Jamamugo Sisi Rapshapare, ဒီနေရာမှာကျွန်မပြောချင်တာကတရားရေးစနစ်မှာပါတယ်ဝန်ထမ်းတွေဥပမာရဲဥပဒေရာရှိရှေ့နေတရားသူကြီးတို့ကလည်းတရားမျှတဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်လူကုန်ကူးမှုလိမ်မိုင်းဆိုင်ရာအမှုတွေကိုလည်းကောင်းကောင်းခွဲခြားသိမြင်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်နစ်နာသူတွေကိုလည်းစိတ်ဓာတ်သိခြင်းဆိုင်ရာအကျိုးကြောင့်သိတဲ့စောင့်ရှောက်နည်းလမ်းတွေနဲ့ဆက်သွယ်ပြီးပြစ်မှုတွေကိုပြဋ္ဌာန်းထားတဲ့ဥပဒေနဲ့အညီအကတိကင်းနဲ့တရားစီရင်ပေးဖို့လိုပါတယ်လို့ကျွန်မထင်ပါတယ်
When my parents go to the police station, they report my case as a rape case. But after that, when they do the inspection, they do the assessment, deep down inspection, and then they find out this is not only the rape case, it's also kind of the trafficking cases. So they go in deep down, and that's why my case have to be do the cause as a district level, not in a township level, because in our country we have the different level in doing the cause. So, and also that I would like to mention that when we see this kind of victim, our police officer that different sectors should also learn and then have knowledge about the trauma care, trauma informed and trauma care. So to treat them in the right way, not to cause them to the trauma.
ဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့မှကျွန်မလူမှုအတိုင်းဝိုင်းနဲ့ပြန်လည်ဝင်လာပြီးဘဝပြန်လည်ရည်တည်ခဲ့တဲ့အပိုင်းကိုဝေမျှချင်ပါတယ်လူကုန်ကူးမှုတားဆီးကာကွယ်ရေးရတပ်ဖွဲ့ကအစိုးရဌာနအချင်းချင်းဖြစ်တဲ့ပြန်လည်ထူထောင်ရေးဦးစီးဌာနတွေနဲ့ချိတ်ဆက်သလိုအရပ်ဖက်လူမှုအဖွဲ့အစည်းဖြစ်တဲ့ရန်ကုန်ကရင်နှစ်ချင်းမျိုးသမီးအဖွဲ့နဲ့ချိတ်ဆိုင်လှုပ်ဆောင်ခဲ့တဲ့အတွက်လည်းကျွန်မဒီအဖွဲ့တွေနဲ့ဆက်ပြီးတည်ခွင့်ရခဲ့တယ်ဒီအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေရဲ့ရုပ်ပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာစိတ်ပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာအကူအညီတွေနဲ့ကျွန်မဘဝကိုပြန်လည်ရည်တည်နိုင်ခဲ့တာဖြစ်တယ်လူကုန်ကူးခံရပြီးပြန်လည်လွတ်မြောက်လာတဲ့သူလိမ်မိုင်းဆိုင်ရာကျူးလွန်ခံရတဲ့သူတွေကိုလိမ်မိုင်းဆိုင်ရာကျူးလွန်ခံရပြီးရုံထွက်လာနိုင်သူစားတဲ့နစ်နာသူတွေကိုပြန်လည်ထူထောင်တဲ့နေရာမှာအရက်ဘက်ဆိုင်ရာလူဖွဲ့စည်းတွေနဲ့အစိုးရဌာနအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေဟာအခမ်းကဏ္ဍအလိုက်ညှိနှိုင်းပြီးပူးပေါင်းဆောင်ရွက်တဲ့စနစ်ကလည်းအရန်ကိုအရေးကြီးတဲ့ဆိုတာကိုကျွန်မပြောပြချင်ပါတယ်
After that anti-trafficking task force referred my case to Department of Rehabilitation, and then after the DOR Foundation department, they also transferred me to the Yangon Karen Baptist Women Association, and there I have been got a lot of support from them, like financially, not financially, sorry, mentally, physically, like we can say that holistically. So she feel better to be able to go back into her society.
2022ခုနှစ်မှာရန်ကုန်ကရင်နှစ်ချင်းအမျိုးသမီးအဖွဲ့နဲ့ ITN တို့ပူးပေါင်းထားတဲ့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံချင်းတန်လွတ်မြောက်လို့သူများချိတ်ဆက်ခြင်းကိုရလင်းလက်ကျယ်လို့ခေါ်တဲ့အဖွဲ့အစည်းမှာစတင်ပါဝင်ခဲ့ပါတယ်။လက်ရှိမှာလည်းဗန်နာရေးမှုတယောက်အနေနဲ့တာဝန်ယူထားပါတယ်။ကျမတို့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံရှင်တန်လွတ်မြောက်လာသူများချိတ်ဆက်ခြင်းကိုရကကမ္ဘာလုံးဆိုင်ရာရှင်တန်လွတ်မြောက်လာသူများချိတ်ဆက်ခြင်းကိုရရဲ့အစိပ်ပိုင်းတစ်ခုလည်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်။
After that, in 2022, I joined with the foundation called named Lin Laje, which is formed by the Yangon Karen Baptist Women Association and International Justice Mission, which is a part of the global survivor networking. I am working as a treasurer there.
ယခုချိန်မှာခေါင်းဆောင်တအုပ်အနေနဲ့လူကုန်ကူးမှုနဲ့ကာကွယ်တားဆီးရေးအသိပညာပေးဟောပြောပွဲတွေကြားမှအခြေပြုအကြံဖတ်မှုအသိပညာပေးဟောပြောပွဲတွေမှာခေါင်းဆောင်တအုပ်အနေနဲ့လည်းတာဝန်ယူလှုပ်ဆောင်နေပါတယ်။စစချင်းမှာကိုအထင်သေးတဲ့သူတွေအဖြစ်တင်တဲ့မျက်လုံးတွေနဲ့ကြည်လေမလားလို့ကြည်နေမလားလို့စိတ်ထဲစိုးရင်ခဲ့ပေမဲ့ကိုတွေ့အကြောင်းအရာတွေအဖြစ်ပြက်တွေကပြောတဲ့အခါမှာလူတွေကပိုတတိထားမိလာတယ်မမိလာတယ်ကာကွယ်ရေးတွေအတွက်လည်းကာကွယ်ဆောင်ရှောက်ရေးအတွက်လည်းများစွာအထောက်အကူဖြစ်တာကိုလည်းတွေ့ခဲ့ရပါတယ်ပြီးတော့လိမ်မိုင်းဆိုင်ရာခေါင်းပုံဖြတ်ပြီးတရုတ်နိုင်ငံကိုရောက်စားခံလိုက်ရတဲ့မျိုးသမီးငယ်လေး၃ဦးကိုလည်း မျိုးသမီးငယ်လေးသုံးဦးကိုလည်းပြန်လည်လွတ်မြောက်လာအောင်သက်ဆိုင်ရာဌာနအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေနဲ့ချိတ်ဆက်ပြီးကူညီပေးနိုင်ခဲ့တယ်။သူတို့ကိုလည်းစိတ်ဓာတ်ခွန်အားတွေပေးပြီးတရားရေးလမ်းကြောင်းမှာလည်းလိုက်ပါကူညီပေးခဲ့တယ်။တစ်ဖက်ကျူးလွန်သူကလည်းတရားရေးလမ်းကြောင်းမှာသူလွတ်မြောက်အောင်ငွေပေးစည်းရုံးတာတွေနင့်နာသူမိသားစုကိုချိန်ချောက်တာတွေလှုပ်လာတဲ့အခါကျမတို့ကလည်းတရားခံမလို့အောင်ခက်ခက်ခဲခဲစ조사ခဲ့ရတယ်။ကျူးလွန်သူကိုထောင်နဲ့နှစ်30ချမှတ်နိုင်ခဲ့တယ်။
I am now become a facilitator for the Linlet J Foundation, which my role right now is like I'm sharing and then training about the anti-human trafficking, like prevention, reducing risk, something like that. And then also now, at first I feel like people when look down on me, I do not have confidence to go forward like this, but when I try and share my story, I see that it's really effective in prevention. So people know my story, they learn from my story, and it's really good. And there's also one thing that I proudly wanted to present that there, along this journey, I see the 3 girls was selling to the China, and I become their supporter, like their mentally, physically. I become supporting for them, and there's a perpetrator. He tried to persuade me because I have the evidence in my hand, and he tried to persuade, and then sometimes even like threatening my family. So I come over all these things, and at the end we can present this person 30 years.
ကျန်ဖြူချက်အနေနဲ့ကျွန်မပြောပြချင်တာကနင်နာသူတွေအတွက်တရားစီရင်စနစ်မှာပါဝင်ပတ်သက်တဲ့သူတွေဟာအချိန်နဲ့တပြေးညီဆောင်ရွက်ပေးဖို့လိုပါတယ်။နိုင်ငံဖြတ်ကျော်တဲ့ဖြစ်ရပ်တွေမှာလည်းအထူးသဖြင့်ကျမတို့မြန်မာမျိုးသမီးငယ်လေးတွေကတရုတ်နိုင်ငံကိုရောင်းစားခံခဲ့ရတဲ့ဖြစ်ရပ်တွေအများကြီးရှိခဲ့တယ်။လက်ရှိမှာလည်းဖြစ်နေသေးပဲ။နောင်ကာလမှာမဖြစ်တော့အောင်နင်နာသူတွေမရှိတော့အောင်ကျူးလွန်သူတွေရောရှာသွားအောင်ကျမတို့သက်ဆိုင်ရာနိုင်ငံအချင်းချင်းချိတ်ဆက်ပြီးပူးပေါင်းဆောင်ရွက်ဖို့လိုပါတယ်။နောက်တစ်ခုကဗတ်မလိုက်ပဲတရားမျှတတဲ့တရားစီရင်ရေးစနစ်တွေထွက်ပေါ်လာဖို့လည်းလိုအပ်ပါတယ်။နောက်တစ်ခုကပြည်တွင်းနဲ့ရောနိုင်ငံဖြတ်ကျော်တဲ့ဖြစ်ရပ်တွေရောပေါ့သွားရင်လာရင်နဲ့မှမမျှော်လင့်ထားတဲ့အကက်အခဲတွေအန္တရာယ်တွေနဲ့ကြုံလာရင်သတင်းပေးတိုင်ကြားလို့ရတဲ့အရေးပေါ်ဖုန်းနံပါတ်တွေနေရာချထားပေးသင့်ပါတယ်။အဲ့ဒီနံပါတ်တွေကရတဲ့သတင်းအချက်အလက်တွေကိုလည်းအချိန်နဲ့တပြေးညီတုံ့ပြန်ပေးဖို့လိုပါတယ်။နောက်ဆုံးတစ်ခုကနိနာသူတွေကိုကူညီပေးတဲ့နေရာမှာပါဝင်ပတ်သက်သူအားလုံးဟာစိတ်ဓာတ်သိခြင်းဆိုင်ရာအကျိုးအကြောင်းသိတဲ့စောင့်ရှောက်နည်းလမ်းတွေကိုသိပြီးကူညီစောင့်ရှောက်ထောက်ပံ့ပေးဖို့လိုအပ်တယ်ဆိုတာကိုအကြံပြုတင်ပြပြောဆိုချင်ပါတယ်။
I would like to recommend that in judicial process, it should be happen in real times. Like whenever we wanted to try to save these victims from the perpetrator. So at the same thing, like in also cross-nation collaboration is also need because we are not only facing the internal, we're also facing the internationally. And then in the cooperation on the process of the judicials, we have to be collaborated, like government sectors and then non-government sectors, and all these members we should also know the trauma-informed care in order to treat the victims well.
ဒီကုန်းချုပ်မှာကျမပြောပြချင်တာကပထမအချက်အနေနဲ့ကျမတို့လူမှုအတိုင်းဝိုင်းကလူတဦးတစ်ယောက်ချင်းစီကလူကုန်ကူးမှုဖြစ်ရကဘာလဲဘလို့အခြေအနေမျိုးမှဆိုရင်လိမ်မိုင်းဆိုင်ရာကျူးလွန်ခံရတဲ့ကိစ္စရပ်တွေဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုတာသိရှိထားပြီးအချင်းချင်းထောက်ပံ့ပေးတဲ့စနစ်ထားရှိဖို့ကလည်းအရေးကြီးပါတယ်ဒုတိယတစ်ချက်အနေနဲ့တရားစီရင်ရေးစနစ်မှာပါဝင်ပတ်သက်တဲ့ဝန်ထမ်းတိုင်းကလည်းဒါတွေကိုသေချာသိရှိထားပြီးပြဋ္ဌာန်းထားတဲ့လူကုန်ကူးမှုနဲ့အမျိုးသမီးတွေကိုအကာအကွယ်ပေးထားတဲ့ဥပဒေတွေတိုင်းတရားစီရင်ဖို့ကလည်းအရေးကြီးတယ်ဆိုတာကိုပြောချင်ပါတယ်တတိယအချက်အနေနဲ့ကတော့အစိုးရဌာနပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေနဲ့ သက်ဆိုင်ရာအရက်ဖက်လူမှုအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေရဲ့ပူးပေါင်းလှုပ်ဆောင်မှုအပိုင်းကိုပါလူထုအသိပညာပေးကိစ္စရပ်တွေမှာအရက်ဖက်ဆိုင်ရာလူမှုအဖွဲ့အစည်းရဲ့လှုပ်ဆောင်မှုကအရေးကြီးပါတယ်ကျမတို့လိုရှင်သန်လူမြောက်လာသူတွေကိုကာကွယ်စောင့်ရှောက်ရေးကဏ္ဍမှာပါဝင်စေသလိုမူဝါဒတွေကိုပြုပြင်ပြောင်းလဲတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းမူဝါဒတွေကိုပြုပြင်ပြောင်းလဲတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းရှင်သန်လွတ်မြောက်လာသူတွေရဲ့ထုတ်လွှင့်လာတဲ့အတန်တွေကိုနားထောင်ပေးပြီးထည့်သွင်းစဉ်းစားဖို့ကလည်းအရေးကြီးပါတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အကြောင်းကိုပြောပြရင်းနဲ့ညီကုန်းချုပ်ပါတယ်အားလုံးကိုကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ရှင်
In conclusion, I would like to give three messages. Number one is like in this society, we should also teach the whole community individually know that what is trafficking, so they can understand, and then they also can form a group to protect each other. For the second one is like in the judicial process, all the officers in every sectors they should be also learn about the trauma-informed care and also without corruption. And thirdly, I would like to mention that the collaboration between the government and non-government sections are really important, especially in providing the human trafficking prevention awareness in society. Like moreover, I would like to suggest to listen to the survivor when you try to change the law or policy for us.
Thank you so much, Thazin. You are sharing quite, long list of valuable informations, and also advice, guidance for all of us. Among others, she has indicated that she become empowered because I think she met the right person, right community, right police who knows trafficking, and guide her with more opportunity to exercise her leadership, her capacity to be a trainer, facilitator, and so on. And she has actually quite a very strong message about the importance of trauma-informed cares, collaborations, government, non-government, multi-sectoral stakeholders. She also mentions that, survivors also need to engage in a policy reform and so on, so among others. Okay, without further ado, now I would like to invite Nini Aung from Freedom Fund to continue the discussion.
Thank you, Nurul. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Freedom Fund. I hope you're not getting sleepy yet. Not long ago, I met a woman in her 50s. She spoke to me with quite honesty that how she had missed the opportunity to build a strong social network and secure economic independence and to pursue her own economic independence and to truly realize her full potential. Her marriage was not forced, was not abusive, but that gave a glimpse into the life of the many girls in the world. Of when they marry too young, often without choices, and often into very deeply harmful and exploitative conditions. So her reflection reminded me that every number or statistic of the forced marriage or child marriage, there is a life interrupted. A girl who was denied to go to the school, to achieve her economic independence, to realize her full potential and thrive. So as we gather together today to talk about tackling child and forced marriage, let us center on the life of these women and girls to create a pathway to protect their freedoms, their rights, and their future. So I would like to outline now drawing on the study conducted by the Freedom Fund in 2018 in collaboration with the Johns Hopkins University, how these child and forced marriage intersect with trafficking in persons. I will also draw some of the evidence from the community of practice, which is Mekong community of practice with the 13 civil society organizations that we convened in collaboration with the Johns Hopkins University in last October 2024. So firstly, For the study that we conducted in 2018, we have interviewed 364 women who are returned from China and also in China, because the study was conducted in northern Chiang and Kachin in Myanmar and Vietnam province. So what we found is that 49% of the women that the study interviewed reported they have experienced forced marriage situations. So before I go further into the other findings, I would like to acknowledge that there is no internationally agreed definitions of the forced marriage. The forced marriage driver are highly contextual in Mekong sub-region country, for example, in Cambodia, China, Myanmar, Vietnam, Thailand, and Laos. The main driver for forced marriage involve poverty, gender expectations, conflict, displacement, and harmful traditions. So the definitions that we used for the study is this. It is formal or informal unions of two persons, at least one of whom did not have the options, refusing the marriage without suffering a penalty, or the means of penalty, or existing the marriage without suffering a penalty, or the means of penalty. So penalty involve physical, sexual, emotional, legal consequences. This is the definition that we use for the study. So 65% of the women that we interviewed, they had reported forced marriage experience, and the majority of the survivors, they were ethnic women, especially under 20 years of age. 30% of them, they subjected to the forced childbearing that indicate their exposure to the reproductive control and gender-based violence while in the forced marriage. 65% of them that reported experiencing forced marriage, they actually used brokers and recruiters, and they were deceived into marriage. So that clearly meet the definitions of the trafficking in persons according to the Panama Protocol. But these are not only unique to Myanmar only, because it is also common patterns shared by countries like Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, which are also neighboring country to China. So in the Freedom Fund and Johns Hopkins University convened the Mekong Community of Practice last year to actually facilitate the exchange of the evidence and information between the civil society organizations in the region, and also to spotlight the persistent issue faced by the women and girls in the regions, because this has been overshadowed by emerging trends of trafficking in the region, like trafficking into scam, forced scamming, trafficking for forced criminality. So it was completely overshadowed, so we would like to spotlight that issue. So these are some of the exchanges that we observed during the community of practice. In Vietnam, ethnic minority girls as young as 13 has been trafficked for marriage or jobs in China. One of the organizations in Cambodia supported 490 survivors between 2022 to 2024, and that number included 100 forced marriage cases, many escaping long-term abuse in China. In Laos and Thailand, we also observed cross-border trafficking of women and girls, often recruiting through social media and brokers under the false promises of work or marriage. In Myanmar, between 2019 and 2024, YKBWA, which is Yangon Kayin Baptist Women Association with us today, they recorded 193 trafficking cases that involved 140 forced marriage survivors, mostly among women aged 18 to 25. China remained the main destination. And also Kachin Women Association in Thailand, KWAT, which is one of the Freedom Fund partner in Myanmar, in their 2024 report named Sold to China, they documented 177 female forced marriage survivors that include 31 girls under 18. Many of these young girls were recruited during the COVID-19 school closure. So 85% of the cases that they recommended were deceived with job promises. 15% were recruited online, such as through Facebook or WeChat, and many traffickers were women, some of whom were previously trafficked for forced marriage. We also observed that across the Mekong sub-regions, in these regions, civil society organizations are working at the front line in tackling trafficking for forced marriage. They raise awareness, they deliver trauma info care, help survivors navigate safe referral systems. In some cases, they even coordinated cross-border rescues. But they are also facing different challenges. Many trafficking cases happen within families, and that further complicate prosecutions and reintegration processes. Legal processes are often very lengthy, and survivors may never receive compensations. And in many countries in the regions, we still lack legal frameworks that define or prohibit forced marriage, or even national referral mechanisms to support survivors. When it comes to the minimum legal age for marriage, yes, most of the countries have set 18 years as a minimum legal age for marriage, but customary and religious practices continue to allow early marriage. So when it comes to forced marriage as trafficking, it can only criminalize when it meets the criteria of trafficking, like coercion or recruitment, so that limit broader protections of women and girls. So some countries in the region still allow perpetrator of rapes. They drop the charges against rapes by allowing them to perpetrator to marry underage victims sometimes. So these legal loopholes in rape charges, protected consent to marriage, provisions addressing forced marriage, will continue to place women and girls in the region in a vulnerable positions, regardless of prevention effort in the front line by the civil society organizations. Okay, so I have 1 minute. I have a few key priorities to make recommendations. Actually, not from the Freedom Fund. It is from the civil society organizations that attended Community of Practice last year. One is the addressing gaps in the legal framework. That would be one, because it is essential not only for better identify survivors, but also to make them visible. Second is that in our regions, particularly forced marriage for trafficking are happening cross-border. So they have recommended supporting civil society organizations on the border should be a priority, because they play a crucial role to provide timely support, intervention and support to the survivors at transit. Because sometimes cross-border collaborations, formal cross-border collaboration has bureaucratic pressures, and it takes time. And also to provide survivor with legal support, because the legal processes are very lengthy and very complicated, so they should be supported. Trauma info care is one. And lastly, to also provide support, to continue to support the exchange of the information, evidence, and good practices between the civil society organizations across the region. So that's.
Yeah. Thank you, Nini. I will not be wrapping up what she's talking about because of the time constraint. Now I'll pass to Jolie. Mike, can you please slide on her one slide PowerPoint? Thank you. Pass to you. Floor is yours, Jolie.
Thank you so much, Nini, Nurul, and Thazin, for sharing your experience. So I will be speaking more from a development practitioner's approach, that what kind of strategies or what we actually do to end or reduce child marriage, child early and forced marriage. And we have seen Plan International actually works in 15 countries across the Asia-Pacific region. And in most of these countries, we know that there are a lot of child brides and potential girls who are at risk of child marriage and trafficking living in these communities. Plan works with the most vulnerable, marginalized communities, and we do stand for the girls, standing strong together. And for that purpose, child early and forced marriage had been one of our focus for last probably 2 decades. But we have strong experiences, and I will be speaking on what worked and what did not work in terms of reducing child early and forced marriage in Asia Pacific region. In the background, you can see that we actually have adopted multi-sectoral and socio-ecological model. From our experience, when we first started to work with girls and young women on CEFM, we only focused on girls. We only thought that working with them, giving them information is going to prevent child marriage, but that was not the reality. So we realized that it's really important that why we should be actually working with the ecological model that actually influences the decision of the family and the girl, or even a young boy. In that sense, we started with working with, first we started with education program, and then we started thinking that, okay, only education is not enough, maybe we should be doing response and prevention together, so we took protection from violence program. But we realized over the period of time that just one sectoral program is not enough to keep a child in their family, because there are so many different factors. And from our experience, there are 4 programs that are mandatory to really reduce child early and forced marriage. One is we have to work together with the community, with the family, with local government and the children themselves to ensure that they are remaining in education system. But at the same time, there are families who cannot afford to keep their children in education system. In that case, at the beginning, we thought that, okay, we will only build the skills and we will only engage the young people in economic activities when they're 18. But we realized if we do not work with their family, if we do not empower them economically, that's not going to work, because families do feel a lot of pressure. And then there comes all the protection from violence and sexual reproductive health rights related information. In the recent arena, we have recently done a global research on which is called Status of the Girls' Rights, and in that research report will be launched in this October. And in that research, we have found that technological advancement has really a big factor in child early and forced marriage these days, because young adolescents, they do not know how to, adapt with their adolescent time period, their needs and emotions. So there are incidences where self-initiated marriage are happening. So it's not the fault of a child or the girl or the boy, rather how do we really work with the education system, how do we work with the local representative to make sure that our children are getting enough information and knowledge and skills to adapt with these social changes. So as I was saying, that multi-sectoral program is really important for us, and then the socio-ecological model. We cannot just work with the girl or the boy individually. We have to work with their families. For example, in Bangladesh, Nepal, what we are doing is we are promoting champion father and mother who have taken initiative to stop child marriage despite community pressure. So we are recognizing them, we are empowering them so that they can promote this to the other families, which has worked really well. In terms of harmful gender norms, what we are doing is celebrating the birth of a girl child in the communities, where from the very beginning, we are instigating this knowledge that a girl is not a burden. She can be an asset for the family. At the local level, what we are doing is, for example, in Indonesia, we are working with religious leaders, religious court, because they have a big influence in harmful social norms and practices. And when we have seen, when the religious leaders, community leaders are standing by the family and young people themselves, it has worked tremendously. In Cambodia, we are doing these community-based child protection mechanisms, where we are strengthening community protection mechanisms within the community, because plan does not have work in all the communities. So we are sharing our learning with the local government representative, national government representative, and we also have strong connection at the regional, especially with ASEAN and SAARC, to share our knowledge, experience, and evidence to these stakeholders, the member states, so that they can, for example, the regional action plan that has been developed for CEFMU has been highly recognized. And at the global level, for example, in the high-level political forum where the SDG-related discussions are happening, we are engaging our young people. So to end my speech in saying that what has really worked, giving power to the communities and young people has really worked well for us. Integrating climate change, integrating technological advancements, online safety, security related skills and knowledge for the young people, adolescents and girls has really worked well for us. And another one is gender transformation, where we do not only speak about norms change, we speak about power shift within family, we speak about bringing boys and men as a companion rather than competitor in the communities. We speak about, in our gender transformation, enabling environment to work with everyone. So these are a couple of things which actually, what Thazin was mentioning, how community can play a role, how family can play a role, how government can play a role. And these are a couple of things, and not all problems are being solved. We are still seeing things are happening. We still need a lot of things to do. If you have any, one of the challenges that we are facing right now is that girls are being taken out of their community and being married off in another community where we do not have a sphere of influence. How do we tackle that? Because as a civil society organization, we do not have the monitoring mechanism of this internal displacement or movement. So if anyone has any idea and good practices, please do reach out to us, and we would love to explore and build new program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jolie, for keeping 7 minutes precisely. Thank you so much. Yeah, you highlight quite numerous. I will not be also wrapping it up, but I would like now to ask Mike to please screen share the video of Miss Sreyna from the Hagar International Cambodia. Let's listen.
I am Sreyna from Hagar, Cambodia. Although I'm not able to join you in person, I'm honored to share some of the Hagar's good practice in addressing trafficking, particularly in the cases of child and forced marriage. At Hagar, we walk the whole journey of healing with survivors, restoring hope and dignity every step of the way. Hagar has worked in Cambodia since 1994. We have served more than 5,000 individual survivors. Currently, there are 209 survivors in our care, and 81% of them are women and girls, mainly impacted by sexual exploitation, forced marriage, and violence. We just trauma-informed survivor-centered approach that meet every need of the mental health, physical recovery, legal protection, education, and economic empowerment. For example, we supported a 15-year-old girl who was raped and forced to marry her perpetrator to close the case. Hagar stepped in. We advocated for her rights. Our legal team worked with relevant stakeholders and authorities to ensure that the perpetrator was arrested and sentenced to 6 years in prison. This is the power of coordinated trauma-informed care. So one of our strongest practices is a community-based recovery model, which we fully adapted after 2 decades of shelter-based care. So we prioritize placing survivors in their biological or extended families. But if those are not possible, then trained foster family provides safe, loving, and temporary care. Currently, we are working with 31 foster families across the country to care for survivors. And they are recommended by local leaders, and all the family members must agree to participate. And children are also part of decision making, helping ensure safety, trust, and long-term reintegration. Yeah, prevention is also the key. We work with we educate with the local authorities, schools, churches, and parents to raise awareness on child rights, child protection, and the danger of early and forced marriage, and also the Cambodia law that criminalizes child and forced marriage, aiming to stop the cycle before it starts. So we conduct outreach through child youth group, faith-based network, cooperating with local authorities, creating a community system that protects children before harm occurs. So by educating families and building trust at the grassroots level, we stop the cycle before it begins. So caring for traumatized survivor require compassion and resilience. That's why we provide continual training, supervision, and active, reflective session for foster families, stakeholders, partner, and frontline staff. Our work doesn't stop at healing. We empower. So we form a survivor leadership program. Many of our survivors now lead change. They're mentoring others, sharing their story, protecting harm in their community. We also have 5 of our former survivors working full-time at Hagar as well. So at Hagar, we work the whole journey, mean working together with survivors, families, local system, and partners, because healing is not possible without community collaboration and care. Every child deserves a life free from violence and a future filled with hope. So together, we not only protect the vulnerable, but we empower them to become a leader for change. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope she probably listening online, and yeah, although she cannot have interaction with all of you. All right, that's all the presentation. We still have around more or less 30 minutes to have an open discussion. As we have expected you, please, post it your question, but you can also provide comments or any, expression in the chat. And I have, Lucy will be helping with that. But before that, may I please ask a question to these, panelists who are attending in person? Just one question to each of you, if you could probably, share to what extent actually this harmful cultural, social norm, gender norms, or even traditional practice that actually, perpetuate this child marriage, forced marriage, because we are not only talking about children, but we're also talking about young women, young men, and kind of that forced into marriage. And to what extent do you think civil society and even like survival leaders, for example, or survival network can actually contribute to prevent or to combat these crimes? Yeah, you would like to start?
Thank you, Nurul, for the questions. Actually, addressing that deeply rooted norms is never been straightforward. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes time to build the trust with the community affected. It needs careful considerations. I will claim that what I am going to share is a silver bullet solutions, but at least they are strategies that have worked in our programs in Myanmar. First, strengthening of the legal framework will be a foundation. It will be a key. In 2022, Myanmar amended its Anti-Trafficking Act. In the act, they have explicitly included forced marriage as a form of exploitation. So these legal recognitions paved the way for the civil society organization in the front line to actually engage the community on the topic of forced marriage, previously considered as a private issue or just local traditions. So it become a serious issue and serious abuse now because of the law reforms. Second, our partners have, just as you mentioned, that Plan International mentioned that our partners have been actively engaged religious and faith-based groups, because it happened a lot in the ethnic regions, which the faith-based organization play quite an important role to shift community attitudes, both towards trafficking in persons and also towards the survivors, including those being subjected to the forced marriage situation. So this has led to a more supported environment, as Thazin mentioned, with a growing recognition of the harms involved in the forced marriage and trafficking in persons. The third, that we also support practical solutions like livelihood training for displaced women and girls. Because these skills they can carry everywhere they go. So for example, one of our partners in Myanmar in 2023, they have piloted economic empowerment programs with the 15 displaced women. So we found a success like 90% of them find a new income, and that not also reduce the risk of trafficking and also reduce and save migrations and taking the risks to go to China. The most important point I would like to make is that civil society organizations must take balancing approach between the deep-rooted norms and the harmful practices. It should be participatory approach. For example, our partners in Myanmar train community volunteers about these forced marriage and trafficking in persons, and they engage community volunteers to do awareness raisings, to support survivors, for the early interventions in these activities. So by engaging community volunteers, they have managed to refrain the awareness raising messaging sensitive to the context, and also avoid seeing the civil society actors as outside judgments about their tradition. So these are some things that works in Myanmar context.
I would say that it is highly prevalent that how the norms, especially the harmful norms, are impacting the child early and forced marriage issues, because we have seen CEFM not only in marginalized communities, we have seen it in urban context as well, even in wealthy families. Then why is it happening? It's not only poverty. It is that how we perceive girls, how we perceive children, and do that. What can we do more? Few things that this is my personal observation from a development perspective, is that we need to engage private sector. We need to engage media. One of the example is Plan had been engaging with Telenor, which is one of the global telecom company, and in Bangladesh, along with the telecommunications industry, because they do a lot of private advertising. So what we did is we promoted positive norms. We promoted bringing the positive things or the norms changing, social norms changing into public while working with the private sector. Day by day, we have to recognize that it's not only community. If we look at the advertisement, if we look at the media houses, how we are portraying women, those are also a factor, how the norms and practices are being shaped up. So I believe that if we really start engaging, and World Bank has actually published a research report where they have mentioned that how when a family engages their girl in education, continues their education, and then goes into economic empowerment, how much economic empowerment actually helps the family. So CEFM does have not only social aspect, but also an economic aspect. That is why we are working with ADB, where we are sharing our experiences. So how does the multilateral institutions can really bring systems and processes in places where we can see a push in terms of the family and in the communities. So I would say that to do more in terms of really combating with harmful norms and practices, we need to bring all these stakeholders on the table and really engaging them in meaningful conversation, that what role can they play in shaping up gender norms and practices. That would be all for mine.
Thank you so much. Thazin, if you want to share, please feel free, but otherwise don't worry. Yes.
Okay. Lugongu muri yosha bone te chaduri go lugongu mukhan ya bo chamaru ababaka pyaung le bu lo bare chamaru tawu tayaw chin si yo lumu atai wan yo tatsaya nangan taw ka ba pyu pyin pyaung le bu ri lo bare လူတဦးတယောက်ချင်းစီကလူကုန်ကူးမှုကပါလေလိမ်မိုင်းဆိုင်ရာခေါင်းပုံဖြတ်အမျက်ထုတ်ခြင်းအတင်းအဓမ္မခိုင်းစေခံရခြင်းစားတာတွေကဘယ်လိုမျိုးလဲဆိုတာသိထားဖို့လိုပါတယ်ကျမတို့နိုင်ငံမှာအောက်ခြေမှာရှိတဲ့လူတော်များများကတခါတည်းမိမိကိုယ်ကိုမိမိလူကုန်ကူးမှုဖြစ်စဉ်တွေကိုကြားရောက်နေတဲ့ခေါင်းပုံဖြတ်အမျက်ထုတ်ခံနေရတယ်ဆိုတာကိုသိရှိမနေပဲမိမိတို့ဘဝရှင်သန်ရည်တည်ဖို့အတွက်အလုံးလုံးနေတဲ့ဥသာခံယူထားကြတယ်ဒါကြောင့်အသိပညာတွေမြင့်တင်ပေးခြင်းအပြင်သူတို့ကိုသိစေဖို့လိုတယ်တစ်ဖက်မှာလည်းကိုကဒီလိုကိစ္စရပ်တွေကိုလူသားချင်းအချင်းချင်းကျူးလွန်လို့မရဘူးကျူးလွန်ရင်သက်ဆိုင်ရာပြဋ္ဌာန်းဥပဒေတွေနဲ့အပြစ်ပေးအရေးယူလို့ရတယ်ဆိုတာကိုကြည်ကြဲပြင်းပြင်းသိထားဖို့လိုတယ်လူမှုအတိုင်းဝိုင်းအနေနဲ့လည်းအချင်းချင်းအပြန်အလှန်ထောက်ပံ့တဲ့စနစ်ရှိဖို့လိုပါတယ်နိနာသူဘက်ကိုပြစ်တင်ရှုံချခွဲခြားဆက်ဆံတာမျိုးမလုပ်ပဲလူသားချင်းစာနာတတ်တဲ့စိတ်နဲ့အချင်းချင်းအပြန်အလှန်ကူညီဖို့လိုပါတယ်လူကုန်ကူးမှုတော်တော်များများကိုပြန်ကြည့်တဲ့အခါဖြစ်စဉ်တော်တော်များများကဘဝရှင်သန်ရည်တည်ရေးအတွက်ရွှေပြောင်းသွားလာရေးနဲ့မှလူကုန်ကူးမှုဖြစ်စဉ်နဲ့ကြားရောက်သွားတယ်နောက်တစ်ခုကကျမတို့နိုင်ငံရဲ့လက်ရှိအခြေအနေကြောင့်ရွှေပြောင်းသွားလာရေးနဲ့မှလူကုန်ကူးမှုဖြစ်စဉ်တွေကိုကြားရောက်သွားတယ်ဒါတွေကိုသက်ဆိုင်ရာနိုင်ငံတော်အစိုးရကအလုပ်ကိုင်ခွင့်လန်းတွေကိုပုံမပေါ်များလာအောင်ဖန်တီးပေးမယ်လုံခြုံစိတ်ချရတဲ့အလုပ်တွေရရှိအောင်လုပ်ပေးမယ်တရားဝင်အလုပ်ကိုင်အေဂျင်စီတွေရဲ့သတင်းချက်လက်တွေကိုမေးမြန်းစုံစမ်းလို့ရအောင်ထားပေးမယ်တရားမဝင်လှုပ်ဆောင်နေတဲ့ agency တွေကိုလည်းတရားမှုရှိတဲ့အဖြစ်ပေးရေးယူမှုတွေလုံနိုင်တယ်ဆိုလူကုန်ကူးမှုတွေရှော့ချဖို့အတွက်များစွာအထောက်အကူဖြစ်မှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ရှင်သန်လွတ်မြောက်လာသူတဦးအနေနဲ့ကျမကလက်ရှိမှာရှင်သန်လွတ်မြောက်လာသူများချိတ်ဆက်ခြင်းကိုရမ်းမှာခေါင်းဆောင်တဦးအနေနဲ့ကာကွယ်စောင့်ရှောက်ရေးလုပ်ငန်းတစ်ခုအနေနဲ့လူထုကိုအတွေ့အကြုံတွေပေါ်အခြေခံတဲ့အသိပညာပေးဟောပြောပွဲတွေလုပ်တယ်။သူတို့ကိုအသိပညာတွေမြင့်တင်ပေးတယ်။ကြုံတွေ့လာတဲ့သူတွေကိုလည်းသူတို့ဘဝပြန်လည်ရည်တည်လာနိုင်အောင်အားပေးတယ်။လက်တွေခေါ်ပေးတယ်။သက်ဆိုင်ရာဌာနအဖွဲ့အစည်းတွေကိုလည်းကျမတို့ကြုံတွေ့နေရတဲ့အခြေအနေတွေအခက်အခဲတွေစိန်ခေါ်မှုတွေကိုသူတို့သိအောင်လှုပ်တဲ့တွေးဆောင်ပွဲတွေအစည်းအဝေးပွဲတွေများတင်ပြဖြစ်ပါတယ်
I think it is every individual responsibility. So we should also have the knowledge related to trafficking. And some people most of the people in my country, even they are in a situation of labor exploitation, sex exploitation, they will only think that's because this is a life lesson that we have to go through. That's why we need to educate them. We need to educate individually. And instead of like discriminate the survivor or like blame them, we should come together supporting them. And then another way that we can do it like as our nation, because right now in our country, because of the situation, the political situation, a lot of people have to flee or searching for a job, which is like if we can have an open or like easy to access a job, that would be really good for us. In order to get a good job or the safe one, our government should have the campaign to be able to create a job for us. And then if there's we have to go abroad and to do the job in the other country, that's what could be also have the accessible information to go inside and see deep down in there that what is it safe for us or not. That would be nice. As for myself, as a survivor, I now become a leader, and I also encourage those who are in the same trip with me, and then I try to bring them, kind of supporting them to stand at the same point that I'm standing right now. And I also report or speak out that we've been facing all these difficulty, and then what are the challenges to every state that I've been on there.
Thank Thank you so much, Thazin. A very good point. All right, Lucy, is there any one questions that really burning questions? Maybe we can raise it here.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the questions is around, in some Indonesian communities, child marriage is normalized as part of tradition, where girls are married off at a young age as a form of payment is made to the family under the name of customary practice, like traditional practice. How can we distinguish between harmful traditional practices and trafficking in persons in such cases, and what culturally sensitive approaches can be used to challenge these norms? So the main question is, how can we distinguish between harmful traditional practices and trafficking in persons in such cases, and what culturally sensitive approaches can be used to challenge these norms?
Okay, I bet either Nini or Jolie would like to start first. Or Thazin, you would like to start? Answer? You want to start? Yeah, two questions.
When it comes to harmful practices, I think it's really is because we have a perspective of the trafficking in persons and forced marriage and so on. I think the community themselves doesn't perceive it's a harmful practice. It's just a tradition. It's just their local traditions. They are just following that. So even as I mentioned before, even when our partners are engaging, even there is a law exists in the country, it is not always easy. Just go straight and talk that this is not acceptable according to the law. It is not like that. It doesn't work like that. So they always have to engage community volunteers, refrain their messaging around the community sensitive manner so that they will be perceived as we are not coming to say that this is harmful. They just try to understand that this is not, this is abuse and this is the harmful consequences if you do that. So that's kind of the harmful practices, the community, they don't really perceive this way. It's not easy to say this is harmful or it's not harmful. The other thing is that culturally sensitive approach. Of course, we do engage, we make sure that our partners, especially in Myanmar, they make sure that all the interventions are community-led. So that is tailored to the community needs and community issue were prioritized in designing their interventions. And also, because this is happening a lot within the youth community, many young girls and boys, they migrate and they fall into that situation, including forced marriage. So what they do is that they do engage cultural dances, songs, opera, just local traditions, using local dialects to actually make these songs and cultural events. They use the quicks to actually interact with the youth. They create events for the youth-to-youth connections, like competitions, something like that. So this way the youth, they are connected, they create the agency to seek help from each other, to seek support from each other. And also one way that they do is that they also engage teachers in the community, because teachers in the rural communities, they are well respected. So if the girls have issue, they will run to the teachers and talk about their issue, and this way they find help. So there are these digital platforms like Facebook page. They also engage. They posted the songs. They posted these short video about the trafficking in persons. They interact with the youth because in some cases our partner received the report from the family that my children has fallen into that situation. Can you help? So these are some innovative areas that our partners in Myanmar have been engaging to really raise awareness about the community.
Just want to piggyback what Nini was saying. It's first of all, the question says that distinguish between harmful norms and practices and trafficking. I would say we don't need to distinguish. Any harmful practice that restricts a child or a young person or a woman or a girl realizing their human rights, that should be considered. So we do not, even if it doesn't instigate in human trafficking or trafficking in person, we should be working on harmful social norms and practices. And what Nini is saying, absolutely, community knows best. The local people knows best what works, what doesn't work. In the communities, there are champions, there are people who speaks, there are people. So we need to find out those people. It doesn't have to be my organization's representative going there and trying to preach. It has to be within the community who are the champions and really promoting them, because they have an influence within that community. If an organization from outside goes and talks about that, they will be offended, and it is offensive when I'm not from that community. So rather, I would say, just try to identify who are the, I would say, the positive champions in fighting those harmful practices, and really working with them. Co-creating programs with them rather than for them would really work.
Thank you so much, Jolie and Nini. Just want to add a little bit. I agree that we have to also, assessing it in a, element of means. If we look at the element of means in the definition of trafficking, the abuse of vulnerability is part of the element of means, right? If these harmful social norms, gender norms, traditions, whatever, that is harmful to individual or group of people and lead them to trafficking, this I would consider is already element of means, right? And then as if it is an adult, then follow the definition. Then you will have to define the element of acts, right? And then the exploitation itself, you can easily look at that. So I will be looking at that. And again, these are the driver of traffickings, and we have to look at that. And that's one thing. Thazin, want to say something? You do not need to if you do not want. Yeah, okay. No, all right. So I think we have just 7 minutes, unless there is one more questions. But please answer in a short. Yeah, Lucy?
Here's one of the questions. What techniques can be used to spread awareness that child marriage is exploitation in a way that acknowledges cultural practices or cultural traditions that support the practice? Yeah, of course. What techniques can be used to spread awareness that child marriage is exploitation in a way that acknowledges cultural traditions that support this practice?
I think it's quite similar to the first questions. I will not repeat what have been answered, but really it's because as in the morning, it's also even the children have access to the digital platform nowadays. So I think we could either use digital, which is child-friendly messaging. That is one way, but I do believe that the parents are the entry point to actually engage for this issue, and also that in the community, because so that they can just, as I mentioned, if the community aware that this is unacceptable, this is harmful, this bring the harmful consequences for the children, they know the support mechanisms, if they know the law. Of course, it is best if we have the law in the country that protect the child rights. If it is functioning, is the best. So these are some, I think, entry point that we could tap into just to avoid the sensitivity around the cultural things.
Okay, from my end, just two techniques that has worked well. One is theater for development that we have implemented in different countries have really worked, where actually the community, young people, they do stage performance on these social issues. That has really worked well in our communities, where they are actually showcasing in front of hundreds of community people that why child marriage is really, or the trafficking, how these are really violating the rights of girls and boys and young people, or even looking at how it's a lifelong trauma. It's not just a one-shot trauma that, okay, after 1 year, people will be revived, right? So that is one awareness mechanism that has worked well. Another one that we do is interactive games that we do in our Champion of Change curriculum. So there is a global curriculum that we do where we actually work with the boys and girls together. There are separate groups, there are mixed groups based on the preference of the communities, where we have all these tools and techniques that how they can really practice through games, because these days young people, they want entertainment as well. They just don't want to sit together in a courtyard session and just hear us all talking about, but they want to be engaged in these practices. So that one has worked well in terms of raising awareness for us. And the last one, I would say that we have seen that influencers are becoming more and more, powerful these days. So how do we bring influencers as our global champions, that they can speak on behalf of us, because they have a lot of influence on communities, on young people, and even not only young people, everyone, right? So I believe if we really start looking at doing something different, not just the traditional way of doing things, I believe that there will be a bigger impact that we can make in the communities.
I think the question is very important, because normalizing that child marriage is okay in certain community, in certain kind of culture, it's something that is not okay, right? And then using legal approach is not sufficient, because in certain degree, sometimes like say, even judges, prosecutor, or police really cannot do much when they have to face, say, community kind of, trying to, fight back, like, no, this is our traditions, like, in Indonesia, for example, my colleagues here in Indonesia, we call it kawin tangkap. It's like girls being kidnapped and forced to marry, and these are considered being, normal, right? And when the criminal justice want to prosecute this, they have to face community leaders and the whole community that against it, and so on. So that's why it is kind of like quite challenging, and I agree with what Jolie has mentioned, using technology. If technology has been used to facilitate the grooming of the child, to be, engage in a forced marriage and so on, or even facilitate other form of trafficking, now let's use the technology to actually help us to prevent this to continue happen. Even beyond prevention, the criminal justice can maybe start to use the digital evidence, because apparently even in ASEAN, digital evidence is not yet always recognized in the legal system. So that's why, when it is happening, then these cannot be used as an evidence to prosecute trafficking cases. So this is something that we need to keep talking, and everything is moving with the more technological and kind of advantage and so on, and how we can actually use this as well. I think we have quite timely, just 1 minute, unless Thazin want to say something. Oh, okay, Thazin, please.
ကျမအနေနဲ့လူကုန်ကူးမှုရှော့ချဖို့အတွက်ပေါ့နော်ပထမဦးဆုံးခြေလှမ်းအနေနဲ့ပြောချင်တာကြတော့ပေါ့နော်တချို့ရက်ရွာတွေမှာကြတော့ကိုယ်တိုင်လူကုန်ကူးခံရတယ်ဆိုတာတကယ်တမ်းလူတွေကမသိကြဘူးလေအဲ့လိုမျိုးဆိုတော့သူတို့ကိုယ်တိုင်ကလူကုန်ကူးခံနေရတယ်ဆိုတာသိဖို့ဆိုတာကြတော့လူကုန်ကူးမှုနဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့အသိပညာပေးကိစ္စရပ်တွေသူတို့ကိုယ်တိုင်ကသင်တန်းလေးတွေရထားမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လူကုန်ကူးမှုကိုတစိမ့်တသေးတာကနေရှော့ချရာရောက်တယ်အခုလက်ရှိမှာမြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာရှိတဲ့အမျိုးသမီးငယ်လေးတွေရဲ့အဓိကဖြစ်နေတဲ့ပြဿနာဘာလဲဆိုတော့မိသားစုကဆင်းရဲတယ်ပြီးလို့ရှိရင်ကိုယ်ပိုင်အလုပ်ကိုင်အသက်မွေးဝမ်းကြောင်းမှုပညာရေးမရှိတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မလို့လူကုန်ကူးမှုတွေပေါ့နော်ကြာရောက်သွားတယ်အတင်းအဓမ္မလက်ထပ်ခိုင်းစေတဲ့အထဲကိုကြာရောက်သွားတယ်အဲ့လိုအခြေအနေမျိုးတွေမရှိအောင်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့အနေနဲ့ကကြတော့အသက်မွေးဝမ်းကြောင်းပညာလေးဖြစ်တဲ့ဥပမာဆက်ချုပ်တာတို့ဥပမာဈေးရောင်းဈေးဝယ်အလုပ်လေးပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်ပေါ့နော်ဇာတို့ပန်းထိုးအလုပ်လေးပဲဖြစ်ဒီလိုမျိုးလေးတမူဝန်ကျောင်းပညာတစ်ခုခုရှိတယ်ဆိုရင်တော့စက်ရုံအလုပ်ရုံတွေထဲမှာသူတို့အတွက်တရားဝင်အလုပ်ဆိုတာနေရာရှိတယ်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံအတွင်းမှာပဲပေါ့နော်အဲ့လိုမျိုးတွေလုပ်ပေးခြင်းအဖြစ်လဲလူကုန်ကူးမှုကိုများစွာရှော့ချနိုင်တယ်လို့ထင်ပါတယ်ရှင်
So I think that in our community, in most of the village, we do not have knowledge about the trafficking. So at the first step, I think we should give the awareness. After, if they have the knowledge, it means they also have they're aware of what they are doing. That's one step. For the second one is I think that now in my country, our young ladies or kids, they do not have a job, or they do not have a profession that they can do. So maybe we can provide the vocational training like sewing training or embroidery or anything else, like how to sell the products, something like that. That would be, so if they have all this skill, they can find a job in the country. That can be also the way to reduce the human trafficking.
Giving the women and the children
Yes.
in the community options, yeah? Okay, that's very good. All right, thank you so much. I think we have to conclude because everyone probably already exhausted for the whole day. I will not be wrapping up, but I want to borrow Thazin's, statement in the first, when she was doing the intervention, the first session, when she said whole society approach, which Holly also emphasizing on that. So we cannot basically tackling this child forced marriage without whole society approach, and even not only just like within the country, but cross country, because now, child forced marriage can also happen between cross border and so on. And I hope this discussion is not ended here. Through the whole chat room, we can continue discuss, we can continue reach out to each other, where we can maybe have more learning, exchange, and probably join hands to fight this child forced marriage together. Thank you so much, and I hand it back to the organizer. Thank you.